What's going on, everybody? It is Sunday night, August 12th, which means this is the night shift, and you don't get Jake Hari, you get Josh Engelman. Taking a look at the Monday, August 13th slate, 10 games tomorrow, interesting hitting options, a ton of high-end pitching. That's going to be very, very interesting when we get closer to lock. I'm really interested in where Jake's perspective is going to be, because there are a lot of options at the top level. So I'm going to take a look at my top 3 stacks that I'll have heading into tomorrow, and then we'll take a look at the pitchers. So right now, I've got a tie at the top. The Tigers are my number 1 stack on FanDuel, my number 2 stack on DK. They are playing the White Sox. The Diamondbacks are my number 1 stack on DraftKings. They're number 2 on FanDuel. They play the Rangers. And then in third would be the Blue Jays. They're facing the Royals. They're third on both sites. So that's where I'm at right now on my preliminary look. I'm going to hop into the first team, which is the Tigers. Tigers hosting the White Sox, 4.5 run implied total. But the main takeaway here is price and matchup. Ronaldo Lopez is atrocious, projects with a 5.34 FIP via Steamer. Really, really bad. And the Tigers have just an absolutely ridiculous price point, particularly on FanDuel. I don't think that I've ever seen a team be so low. Castellanos is $2,900. Candelario is $2,800. No one else in the Tigers projected lineup is higher than $2,200. So you can very easily stack the Tigers against a garbage pitcher and be able to grab any other stack on the board plus the most expensive pitcher. So you could easily take DeGrom if you wanted to at 11-2 on FanDuel, roster the Tigers, and pick any other stack and have it. They're just too cheap. They're super cheap on DK too. It's not as extreme, but Castellanos is $3,800. Mike Gerber's $3,800. I mean, that's like a big part of it. Mike Gerber's $2,100 on FanDuel and $3,800 on DraftKings. There's just bargain price. But I still like the Tigers on DK, just not quite as much. They're not as efficient. I would be focusing most on the first 5 guys in the projected lineup, which would be Mike Gerber, Jose Iglesias, Castellanos, Candelario, Victor Martinez. You could potentially get to someone like James McCann if you were trying to roster a catcher. But I know the Tigers are not great. But salary matters, and in a situation like we have today or coming into tomorrow, the Tigers just make things work. So I'm going to be very heavy on the Tigers so long as this game stays the way that it is. If Ronaldo Lopez is going against Detroit tomorrow, rest assured that I'm going to have a lot of Tigers. Second team for me is the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are in Texas. 5.6 run implied total for the Diamondbacks right now is the highest on the slate by a mile. It's Zach Greinke against Bartolo Colon. So D-backs are getting the combo of an incredibly hittable Bartolo Colon and playing in New Coors, a.k.a. Texas. Like I said, D-backs are second on FanDuel, first on DraftKings. Main guys that I'm looking at on FanDuel, Peralta, obviously, Descalso, Eduardo Escobar, Steven Souza, and then, Goldschmidt and Pollock. It looks like the top 6 will be most popular for me. I'll have a hard time getting to Ketel Marte if Descalso's playing, just because he's significantly cheaper. Now on DK, they've got 3 guys that have dual eligibility. Peralta's pretty expensive, but I like that first 5 of Peralta, Goldschmidt, Pollock, Escobar, Souza. It'll be really easy to get to Descalso or Marte here because of dual eligibility and a similar price point. But I love the Diamondbacks. You should expect them to mash Cologne. There's no real worry there. I mean, outside of Peralta's $5,700 price point on DK, I mean, everybody's relatively easily priced, so I can't recommend the Diamondbacks enough. This total is 11 for the game right now. I don't expect that to go any lower than that. It could even grow. The only thing that's keeping it probably at 11 would be Zach Greinke, but I love the Diamondbacks. I'll have just about everything. Normally I like bringing the catcher along for a stack, but I don't love Jeff Mathis if he's hitting 9th at 2,700. That's probably not enough value for me. Final team to take a look at here, the Blue Jays. They're playing the Royals in Kansas City. It's Sean Reed-Foley going for the Jays and Brad Keller going for Kansas City. Again, Kansas City's bullpen's really bad. Keller, not any great shakes either. So Blue Jays have a 4.7 run implied total. I think that's reasonable. Again, super cheap on FanDuel, whether that's Granderson or Travis, Smoke, Grichuk, Morales. I like all those guys. I like Russell Martin even on FanDuel. Danny Jansen, also catcher eligibility on FanDuel and on DraftKings, but he's minimum salary on FanDuel, so he's going to be very popular if he's in the lineup. Projects with a 105 weighted runs created plus. Doesn't strike out all that often. So I'm liking the Jays on both sites. I'd recommend the first 5 again on DK, so that would be Granderson, Travis, Smoke, Grichuk, Morales. And then Danny Jansen's 3,400 if you need a catcher option. It's really hard to not want to stack against teams like the White Sox when Ronaldo Lopez is playing, or against the Royals when it's basically anyone. The bullpen is just so bad. At some point in time, you should be expecting runs from the Jays, and I will happily take them. Jays 103 weighted runs created plus against right-handed pitching this season. At least average hard hit rates, well above average ISO rates. All signs just point to a really nice matchup and really, really cost efficient. And I'm going to be liking, I won't touch on him now because he's not one of the higher ranked guys, but I'll definitely have a bunch of Sean Reed-Foley, 4,400, projects with an 8.3 Ks per 9 via steamer. Just going to be a guy that's pretty easy to get to. Royals bats are struggling pretty mightily. Only Luke Duda is a guy that like super scares me. You know, Salvador Perez, I guess, as well. But Sean Reed-Foley will be in play. So those are my 3 favorite stacks as of right now: Tigers, Diamondbacks, Blue Jays. I'll still be taking a look at the Indians, probably a little bit of Cardinals too, but we'll dig into that with Jake in the morning. Now for pitching, this one's weird, and I don't even really know how to best talk about it because salaries are just all over the place. Jake DeGrom is the most expensive pitcher on FanDuel and on DK. I don't expect to get to a ton of him on DraftKings. He'll be a little bit more popular on FanDuel. Severino is 10-3 on FanDuel, 11-8 on DK. I'll have more Severino than DeGrom on DraftKings, at least as of right now. I won't have any Fulte. He's at 8,900 on FanDuel, 10-5 on DK. Just going to be difficult to get to. The guy that I like the most tomorrow, Clayton Kershaw, 10-8 on FanDuel, 10,000 flat on DK. He's going to be my most owned pitcher by far, unless I hear reasons why I shouldn't go to him, you know, from like a pitch count or something stupid. But to my knowledge, that's not the case. He grades out so well. He has the highest odds of being a top 2 pitcher on DK. He gets to a 7% chance of top value, which is really hard to do at the high end. I would imagine Kershaw will hit my ownership cap, which tomorrow on DK will be 41%. I think that I'll have somewhere in that neighborhood, right around 40% of Kershaw. I'm not super fond of Madison Bumgarner. I like Greinke quite a bit at 9,700. I like Andrew Heaney at 8,400. These are guys that are grading out as similar, like relatively high upside, high value plays. The middle tier is really rough. So McCollus, whose name I can never remember, Marco Gonzalez, Shamanaya, Malone, and then Ronaldo Lopez. Those are all guys I don't want. I'd guess that I probably won't have much more other than Sean Reed-Foley or Clayton Richard. I won't have any Homer Bailey, although I'm sure everyone's favorite co-host of mine will have some Homer Bailey tomorrow. Shout out Chris Spags. But 2 guys, Kershaw, Sean Reed-Foley. Those guys are going to have the large majority of my ownership. And I'd say Zach Greinke is probably going to be third. So if I'm ranking all of the four guys, well, we'll do five. We'll include Bumgarner at 9,900. No, we won't. If I'm ranking the four 10K or higher guys on DK, it's Kershaw, Severino, DeGrom, Fulte. From a cash perspective, I would expect Severino and Kershaw to be the two best options there on DK. On FanDuel, probably the same. Severino and Clayton Kershaw. I like this slate. I like the pitching. I'm hoping that going all in on someone like Kershaw and a little bit of Severino will be good to go for me. I'm hoping Sean Reed-Foley can catch a little lightning in a bottle tomorrow. That would be very nice. It's an interesting slate. 10 solid games. I like the 10 gamers more than the 14, 15 gamers. I'm not a big small slate guy. This is just perfect. It's the right amount of research, the right amount of permutations. I don't get anybody too much. Ooh, speaking of, I wonder if I got a home run today. Who did I pick? I already forget. I don't know. Someone will tell me. No one tweeted at me, so I assume I didn't get one. That's really all I have right now. We'll be giving a much deeper look tomorrow. There's a couple other, like the Braves have a 5-run implied total tomorrow. They are hosting the Marlins. The Indians have a 5-run implied total tomorrow. They are at the Reds. I think those two teams will be relatively popular from a stack perspective as well. They just weren't in my top 3, but not a ton of scoring expected. Only 3 teams at 5 runs or higher. That would be the Indians, Braves, and Diamondbacks. So it's an interesting night with all the pitching. I think that you're going to be able to get a little different tomorrow using hitters that are maybe a bit more expensive. That's all I've got. I'll be back in the morning with Jake. We will break down this entire slate on a game-by-game basis. We'll have quick hits, spotlight hitters, pitchers, and stacks. And then myself and Chris Spags will be live starting at 6 p.m. Heading into the lock. Check everything out on the website. Lots of stuff coming in the near future. Subscribe on iTunes. Give us 5 stars if you're a fan of the show. Like and subscribe on YouTube if that's where you're listening to this. That's always very helpful. The likes are really helping us climb in some search rankings, so we really appreciate that. I hope everybody had a good weekend. I hope their DFS play went well, and I'll talk to you guys again in the morning. Bye-bye.